and wider with community-led initiatives just like this one. An initiative of GVCC, the Value Co-creators Club, is a monthly series of interactive, educative conversations with experts in the field of architecture and design. In the first season last year, we addressed various aspects of what makes design conscious and how can one design consciously. This season, we are talking about smart living and smart design. Through informal but insightful conversations with both experts as well as young talent, we hope to define an equitable and empathic process of creating environments that are responsive to the needs and aspirations of its inhabitants. And as curators, Mrinalini, Ghadiok, and I are very happy to be able to bring these conversations to all of you. A little bit about who we are and what we do. Very pleased to introduce you to my partner, Mrinalini, Ghadiok. Mrinalini, if you want to say hi to everyone.
Hi, Sneha. Very excited to be here today and to have another very special session this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mrinalini. So Mrinalini is joining us all the way from London, and very gracious of you to join us despite the time difference. So thanks, Mrinalini. And so Mrinalini and I have been doing this with Godrej since the last year. We really enjoy working together and curating conversations like this. In fact, Mrinalini is an architect by training. She has practiced architecture and lighting design. She's also taught at university. She's the founding editor of Mondo Arc and Stir. Her curiosities now lie in questioning normative mechanisms in the creative community, which manifests through written and curatorial practices. So that's Mrinalini. Whereas me, I am not an architect, but a design enthusiast. I'm the former editor of Elle Decor. I'm also an educator and curator of storytelling experiences. Currently, my focus lies in brand and communication strategies, curating experiences for a variety of different brands, including Godrej. I enjoy working with design, luxury, retail, real estate, fintech, social impact brands. But I especially love conversing with experts just like the one that we have today. We're very excited to be hosting him and this very special masterclass. A little quick intro about smart living and why we chose to design conversations around smart living. Why do we choose smarter living? Yes, because this is a broader term for us. This encapsulates many aspects of how we live our lives. For us, though, smarter living extends beyond just tech integration. I think that's a misnomer of sorts, that it's only limited to technology and innovation. We wanted each session in the season to focus on efficiency, on sustenance, long-term use and effects, not just on us, of course, but on the natural and built environment as a whole. So with this season, we hope to have experts on how they plan to bring back the focus on and be more tuned in with evolving human needs through effective design and practice. So today's masterclass talks about adaptive reuse, smart adaptive reuse. Adaptive reuse, as most of you might know, it is one of the many different forms of historic preservation of structures. It is a method that is becoming increasingly popular among architects, urban designers, and planners. In India, of course, India is home to several centuries old abandoned structures. Experts believe that adaptive reuse could define the future of architecture through the practice of adaptive reuse, as it gives lives to these existing structures, abandoned structures, without having to take up more space, more time, and even more resources. The question, however, is of how to build smarter while being conscious of the impact that we have on the environment. So this is an important question that we have posed to our expert today. Very pleased to introduce Puran Kumar. Hi, Puran.
Hi, Sneha. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Puran. And we'd love to hear more from you. A little introduction about Puran for those of you who are already aware of his work. Puran is the principal architect of StudioPKA, which is based out of Bombay, with a keen eye for detail, a deep understanding of processes involved, and a commitment to sustainability. Puran has created spaces that are not only functional and practical, but are also full of character. If you've not seen his lovely studio that he just refurbished in Bombay, it is worth a treat. With typologies spanning architecture, adaptive reuse, and urban regeneration, and of course, corporate interiors, residential spaces as well. Puran's repertoire of projects is as wide as it is simple. Now, 3 decades into the practice, congratulations again, Puran, for completing
Thank
3
you. Thanks,
decades.
Sneha. Thank you very much.
He continues to explore, adopt fresh, innovative, exciting design interventions across a wide gamut of projects that come his way. Very excited to learn more from you today, Puran. You can take it away.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much, Sneha. Thank you, Mrinalini and Godrej Vlogs. Well, it's exciting to be here. I've been following some of the masterclasses that you guys have had from our contemporaries and our experts in the fields, various fields. And when this opportunity came up to share our experiences, our thoughts about adaptive reuse, we couldn't have asked for more. So thanks very much for that. Yeah, so as Sneha, you're introducing the subject of adaptive reuse, I think there is a certain amount of mystery about this still there in the design circles, in the architecture circles, as to what is adaptive reuse and how we as architects could play an active role in incorporating it in architecture. When we say architecture, we are obviously talking about building, but here we are talking about building, rebuilding the built, which is where the challenge comes in, which is the tricky aspect that we talk about. Of course, you just briefly mentioned about our studio, and that's one of the case studies in today's presentation. So those who've not physically walked in and had a look at our studios, we will be presenting that for you. Can I start my presentation and maybe we talk as we go along?
Yes, sure, Puran.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, if I have any questions, I'm happy to interject. Yes.
So I would finish with my presentation and then we can have a chat. Maybe
sure.
Just
that works too. Yes, absolutely.
And you some of the stuff that we've put together here. Okay, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Wonderful. So we don't have any audio in today's presentation. We kept it simple, but I thought that through some of the visuals, we'll try and take this story forward of adaptive reuse and smart one at that. So we are questioning really today, as I said, about the building versus what's already built, and is revival the way forward? And we want to go through that aspect of design through some of our observations as we see various perspectives. So we all know that architecture relates with history, and there's a certain memory that architecture creates. I think that's the crux of the entire discussion here. The memories that have already been created by way of architecture, how is it that we are able to either revive them in the similar form or in a different form, in an adaptive form? We're going to show you some of these case studies in just single slide format, which will evoke some memory if you've been there. And if you've not been there yet, I could just very briefly tell you that there are these examples of adaptive reuse in the modern architecture, which we find are very striking and extremely significant to shaping the cultural aspect, the historical aspect of these establishments. This is the Louvre in Paris. We all know the old form of the Louvre as a museum, the art museum, world-famed art museum. And then you have the intervention by IMP in creating that central courtyard into the access to the Louvre, which it opens up to. And there's a beautiful blend of the old and the new by way of the adaptive reuse of existing structure. And then the more recent example in London, the Battersea Power Station, which is erstwhile a power station, converted beautifully into a commercial establishment. It has got the multi-purpose commercial usage for the entire power station. In fact, this project is so exciting. This has been shortlisted in the World Architecture Festival as we speak, and it's going to be presented in November, towards November end in Singapore. And I'm excited about seeing the live presentation of this, as we'll be presenting a project there as well. And so it's actually taking a lot of people in the design and architecture circles and their fancies to understand this project and to see how you can convert old buildings which have been there for decades or sometimes centuries into completely new modern usage, and efficiently at that. Closer home, this next project I'm showing you is called Cinnamon Boutique. This is done by our very own Sumitro Ghosh in Bangalore. And again, an old structure converted beautifully into a earthy, very human, very, very relatable, organic design of a boutique. And this project is very, very modest in its nature, but it's really caught the attention of the design fraternity and people alike, who actually see the very idea of the old buildings being repurposed into new functions. Back home in Bombay, next to us here is the ice factory. So I remember years ago, Kamal Malik was traveling with me to Delhi, and he spoke about this ice factory, which was defunct. Really, the ice factory, an ice factory of yesteryears. And he said, Puran, there's a block that's sitting there in Ballard State, and it's an old ice factory, and I want to revive that, and I want to revive it as a cultural center, as a place where we can have architects and designers and creatives and artists to come and perform and to exhibit and to come and speak and share their experiences and have a dialogue, design dialogue, creative dialogues. A few years hence, I think during the pandemic, they commissioned this. It's called the Ice Factory. It is now a cultural center. There are already concerts happening here. The dream has realized. There are concerts happening. There are talks and exhibitions happening. And well, a strange coincidence that we, as the studio, along with a few collaborations with the art fraternity and a product that we've devised, are actually using this space for an event next week, as soon as next week. So again, another brilliant example of adaptive reuse in the heart of the city. A building which is 120 years old has been converted into this. I had the pleasure of actually being introduced to this by Kamal and Arjun Malik, walked through to the entire project to see the nuance that has been that's gone into this project. I don't have so much time in this presentation to go through that, but I implore that these are some of the live examples very close to us, whether in Bangalore or in Mumbai or in Goa, where there is a village pub that is there. It's in one of the villages, which comes out of a structure which is not the same. It's an old house that's been converted into a community function. So these are some of the examples of projects that we've seen in the recent times, which have been given a completely new meaning, a completely different meaning from what they were built for. But a very simple saying, but I think a very potent saying, that the greenest buildings are the ones which already exist. We talk about a lot of green all over the globe. Everybody's talking green. Everybody's taking a lot of measures to ensure that the architecture is green and it's carbon friendly. But I think if we focus ourselves or shift our focus towards what's already built and is already created a carbon print, and try and see how it can be incorporated into our modern use and our contemporary use, I think that's the key to a lot that we can achieve through green architecture. I'm going to run you through a couple of case studies that we put together. The first being the loft redefined. Just a bit of history about this. This is our own studio in a building called KK Chambers in Fort in Bombay, where we came in about 7 years ago to the top floor of the building. The top floor actually has these nice sloping roofs and the timber trusses. It has got its context in South Mumbai, which is, and it's located in Mumbai's art district. In fact, we are right there on the art mile, the art district of Mumbai. The whole area is built in the British era, about 110, 120 years old. The entire district has got these beautiful Victorian architecture and the period architecture buildings, which has got a context like the stations, the main stations, or the maidans, which are the greens, which are in the vicinity. The brilliant thing about structures like these is that you have the character, which I think in one way or the other is not being replicated today. We can get into that debate later, but buildings like these are not getting built. Having said that, since after a few decades of use, these buildings went into a kind of an abyss where nobody was using these buildings, and they were in a very depleted, very, very defunct state. We came into this building, and on the top floor, as you can see in this illustration, we saw the place like this. It was left like this for a long time, not having been used. The windows were all boarded up, and the arches were all gone, and the whole space actually asked. It was screaming for some attention and respect to the architecture. We tried putting things together, peeling surfaces off, giving the space its meaning, its true character, bringing it to its own glory by allowing light in, opening up the arches, giving the brick texture its meaning, its expression, and minimally set it up as a studio on the 4th floor, the top floor of this building, which you can see has trusses and some metal work to support that. A few years hence, during the pandemic, we moved out of that space and we came down to the 2nd floor. Luckily for us, we found a similar space on the 2nd floor, as you can see. And the transition ensured that we had the similar character for our studio called the loft, but we did not have that kind of volume. However, in order to keep the character the same, as you can see, this is how we acquired the 2nd floor, and we started once again ripping it open to see what lay beneath, whether it is the brickwork or the lovely slab this time, which we went on to support it structurally by way of metal, a little space program, because we wanted to have the studio, a few offices, meeting rooms, and the service blocks put together. I won't take you too much through the layout plan. And then eventually, to redefine the loft, not only did we take the essence of design down in the same building, but we also reused all the material from the 4th floor into the 2nd floor. The entire steel, the timber, the glass, the furniture, of course, the light fittings and the rest. And we put together the entire studio on the 2nd floor in this manner. Now, mind you, the space was being used as an old office, not even used. This happened to be actually Tata's first office in Bombay, I'm told, in the 1910s. And it was handed over to a few owners, and then it was stopped getting used. And in order to acquire the space and to reuse the space in form of our design studio, where there was a lot of transparency, where there's a lot of respect for the old. If you see the old timber that you can see in these images, left as is, built around that with the elements of new timber and steel. Of course, forever, we're trying to experiment with the materiality and the textures in our projects. And so that's the studio which I wanted to quickly run through as one of the case studies. Our next project here is called Tianu, the revival project. This is in Ballard Estate. And the client came up to us having seen our studio, and she said that it's one space which we feel that you can do justice to, and we need to revive the commercial activity in Ballard Estate together as an exercise, as a pursuit. This is, again, the context is Ballard Estate. The blue block there is the building where it is. It's located again in a Victorian era building. You can see the image of that on a Sunday morning. And that's the kind of character of Ballard Estate that you see around, the kind of buildings that you have there, beautifully done, but in a state of complete neglect. As you can see in this is an image taken before we took the project over, the ground floor. And insides were left like that. That's how the place was being used, and as disrespected, as neglected. We started again removing all the partitions, exposing the skins, and opening up all the fenestrations. A beautiful space again and this is supposed to be a furniture store and a lifestyle store, which we wanted to do the shell in. And the owner, the client, happens to be a designer of furniture. So she was to bring in her furniture and do up the store. Just to show you some of the images as to what we did with the floor space. We gave it a lot of love, I must say, with those arches which are opening towards the street, or the arches with a lot of stonework, brilliant stonework opening towards the side alleys. the exposed brickwork that had a lot of character that was hidden through layers of plaster, opened up. The timber roof, you can see the rafters in the roof and the beams. They were given their due, and there we had a store which was designed as a shell by us in this manner and put together by the client herself for the kind of furniture that she was going to be showing there. You can see the display space, the tactility, the double height, where there's the slab underneath that loft, which has got a true concrete form. Basically, the honesty in space, Sneha, is what I'm talking about here, which is what we tried to inculcate in our designs as we were reusing these spaces in buildings that are more than a century old. Both these examples suggest you the kind of architecture that has a lot of sensitivity and a lot of orientation towards what value there is in what's already built. I think a lot of reorientation for an architect who is itching to build and redesign all the time when you get into adaptive reuse exercises. So an example of how the old slabs are left because they are at that height, and then you have the exposed surfaces or the lighting to ensure that there is a lot of orientation towards a lot of value given to the current display, but without taking away what there is in the building already. So I'm told people enjoy going to Ballard State to go and spend a Saturday afternoon at Tianu and enjoy browsing and looking at furniture.
It definitely doesn't look like a store. It looks like an experience.
It's an experience, trust me, Sneha. It's an experience to be there. And every now and then, maybe every few months, I find some excuse to land up there. And well, that's an understatement. We do buy furniture, and we're actively collaborating with Tianu on our projects. But it's a joy to be there in that space. Also, the way it's kept, and that's how the exterior is. It has a complete relation with the exteriors. It has a lot of interaction with the space outside, and people, I'm told, often just amble across and get into the store and try and discover what it is. The third project that we're talking about now, moving on to the urban scenario, the urban fabric, adaptive reuse in the urban context, is what we wanted to explore as a proposal. And the studio has put this up as a proposal, which was presented last year at the World Architecture Festival. And I must boast and say that we got a commendation for a project which was not built by us. The context is Ballard Estate. This time, the outdoor spaces of Ballard Estate, where we find that there are, so that's just to give you a glimpse of life there, and the architecture there. So it's a commercial district, which becomes a cricket ground or multiple cricket grounds on the weekends. And over the week, it has thousands of vehicles and people coming in and working and leaving that space by 6 o'clock in the evening. Whereas the architecture there is crying for more love, more attention, more engagement, more consumption. And all these alleys lead to courtyards like these. They are in a complete state of neglect. Nothing happening there. They are lying vacant, defunct. They're locked away. The key with some of the security men over there. And they are literally dump yards of Ballard State. Now, this exists in between the buildings that are occupied by the country's topmost corporates, some very top corporates. I mean, it's crazy how we have people living with this kind of thing and not having anything to do with it, turning a blind eye to this. It's a little layout to show you those trapped 4 courtyards, courtyard 1 to 4, and the avenue, which you see here on the left of your screen as a vertical line, which we took as our area of intervention. And we wanted to redesign these courtyard and the open spaces in the way where the spaces have already been created by way of this plan and the architecture, but they have not been used. A quick illustration of showing you what we could try and do with these courtyards. We tried to create public spaces for people to come across, spend time by themselves, work out in the open, meet friends, meet up for coffee, a cafe there, or just these spaces to sit around. Illustrations like these are part of our design proposal, where very easily these spaces could be given back to people who are working there, who are spending their days there, or invite people in the evenings to come in and use the space as a green space, as a meeting space, as a public space. We are so short of these spaces in the city. Courtyard 2, for example, has been proposed with an amphitheater and with the seating and with a cafe. And we could visualize conversion of this space into something as engaging as this. One of the courtyards, we could look at using it as a service courtyard, where you have the imperative need for public toilets and for places to have a breakout away from work and basically just be around. Another courtyard is actually at the back of an art gallery, and we're proposing that we have an open air art gallery so needed for the city in the commercial districts for people to come out. Just as anywhere in the world you have art being displayed, we have it here outside Jahangir Art Gallery, where the footpath and the walkway has been taken over as an art gallery. We have a courtyard asking for that sort of an attention over here, and we'd like to design that as a. So the example of these 4 courtyards and the avenue, which right now is with the taxis, the cars, and with the hawkers all over, the vendors selling over there. Whereas we are looking at the avenue to have small little green patches, the vendors giving space to them in their stalls, and also reorganize the traffic and the parking in such a fashion that we can coexist along with the traffic that's taken over that entire space. So these were some of the illustrations and the proposals that we put together for Barrett Estate courtyards, which we thought was very important from our perspective to present to, and we are looking now for the government authorities to take notice of this proposal, since it has got international acclaim, for us to go out and make an impact and see, hopefully in the future, if we are able to try and build it. So what we're trying to show you through these 3, sorry, I'll just stop sharing. Through these 3 proposals is that, these 3 projects is that we, if we orient ourselves in a smart fashion, when I say smart here, it's more about being intelligent and not necessarily by way of using of technology. So while we all understand the use of technology being smart, but I think technology is a brainchild of the brain. And if we try and reorient our brain in a smart fashion, in a truly smart fashion, we could be making such an impact towards being environmentally conscious, towards contributing ourselves as architects as well as consumers towards things which can be greener and more sustainable as such. So I hope the presentation gave you what you were looking for, enough fodder for you to
Absolutely.
think.
No, I think it was so insightful, because personally I resonated it with a lot because of my work. I mean, I used to work at Godrej Properties, the trees, where part of the project was about adapting their industrial plan. So we worked very closely with Studio Lotus. We rehabilitated those spaces, and it was an incredible learning experience and an incredible insight into what is possible with an existing environment. Thank you so much, Puran. That was such an insightful presentation, and I'm sure that our participants here as well. We have a lot of comments coming in already. One person shared that you're talking about a topic that's very close to our heart. It was really lovely for you to share that. I just wanted to actually ask you about your process. I'm very keen to know, how did you, like, was it the loft that is your office in Bombay? Was that the project that kind of got you interested in the process of adaptive reuse, or did that process start a lot earlier?
I don't know what came first. It's really like the like the hen and the egg, so or the chicken and the egg. So I think the very pursuit to look for a studio for the firm, for our studio to look for a space, was driven by the passion towards respecting the built, respecting the heritage. I don't find this this very amusing or pleasing for me to say that as people, we are not very respectful of what has been built over the centuries, over history. various eras of history. I think there's a lot of respect, there's a lot of conservation of heritage, at least in the architectural space that we find in a lot of other areas in the world. And in India, I think there are few conscious design houses, few conscious people in the area of heritage and conservation who are doing some good work. There's a lot of alignment with that sort of lot as far as our sensibilities are concerned. So we were always looking to, if you're not getting to build something or to preserve something per se, in principle, there's nothing like showing it by an example. So if the firm stood behind its very orientation towards conservation, towards respecting the history and heritage, the studio became a good opportunity for that, Sneha. And naturally, since we were looking for a studio also in this zone, in the art district, where the sensibilities and the very culture once again aligns, it resonates with our philosophy and our being. So the loft became one of those triggers, if you may say. It just became a very potent trigger. It really took the entire city, and in fact, it reached much beyond that, to show people what you can do with space which hasn't found purpose. You can repurpose space that's lying to be discovered. So yes, in a way, yes, that did happen. But I don't think that's the only reason why we are into adaptive reuse in terms of projects.
So, but it's, I mean, having seen the loft in person, I think a few of our audience members also are asking, can we come see the space? I think if you're in Bombay, yes, you should maybe get in touch with Puran, and maybe he can also show you Tiano, which is such a beautiful experience.
Of course.
I must also comment the fact that you talked about the works of your contemporaries as well, like the Ice Factory, like the Cinnamon Boutique, which Soumitra worked on. It was really insightful for you to start off with those projects. What really resonated with me as an observer is that all of these projects are honoring not just the place, but also the structure. I'm sure that must have been. Is that the biggest challenge? Honoring the space, honoring the place, honoring the material, the origins of it. I want to know from you, what is the biggest challenge when it comes to working towards retaining or repurposing the structure? Is it retention the challenge, or is it repurposing the challenge?
Oh, a couple of years back, we were part of an international conference on this, Sneha. I think Mrinalini was part of that, and she was very graciously helping us with that. So there was this architectural firm from UK and one from Turkey, and of course we were moving this from India, and so StudioPKA was part of that as well. Where the challenges are universal. Challenges, there are many, Sneha. In practicing this kind of architecture, I'm sure you've seen something up close as well at Godrej, where Amrish has been really at it for years and has been very, very vehemently and very focused, in a very focused fashion going about. We've spoken about this incident. I also about his pursuit in a similar fashion. Also Mitro, for that matter, or Kamal, of course. He loves to talk about this. Is one of the subjects that is common to us. So challenges, there are many. It's easier to build afresh, guys. We're building. All of us are building, right? We're building here close to Bombay something. We're building something in the hills. It's very easy to come up with a concept and start building. But the challenge of retaining, respecting, and retaining the originality of what's been built and stitching in today's context, today's functionality, today's sensibility, and today's, more important than anything else, acceptance is very, very challenging. So for us to try and build all of those concepts into what has already been left behind for us becomes a challenge. Yes, there's intense amount of detailing, and I was talking to these Turkish architects even at WAF, or when they came on to talk about it on a similar platform. You do not know. There's a lot of discovery in the whole process of building. You don't know everything up front. So when we build afresh, we send drawings to the site, and then we go and see whether it's been built as per that. Here, when we go to the site, we actually go to see what else has been discovered at site. What is it that we've not taken into account? What is it that is today's challenge or this week's challenge? So suddenly you will see, and I could.
It's like putting the puzzle pieces of a mystery together almost.
Oh yes, so there are things that will emerge at any point, and you would not know where does it go from here. In fact, I can just go back to a little.
Yeah,
Allow me to
sure.
go back to our presentation, and I can
Sure.
show you what we're talking about here. Sorry, give me a second.
While Puran loads his presentation, if any of you, any of our participants today have questions, please feel free to leave it in the chat and I'll weave it into the conversation whenever I find a window of opportunity. So please go ahead and share your questions.
Okay, are you able to see this?
Yes.
So if you were, No, I think I need to go into, yeah, here we are. So if you're in a space like this, one day you will go and realize, if you can see this on my screen, that there's an arch, there's an arch over here on this wall, which is at the bottom of the wall, mind you. It's not at the top of the wall. So which means that there was an opening over here, which was going into the basement, which was either an afterthought or it was not something that was what is not cohesively built along with this. And it's like these started appearing as we're there at the site, or some part of the building will start caving in, and you have to have your measures ready and make sure that your construction is not damaging what is already built. So the conservation of the space becomes extremely tricky, becomes extremely challenging when we are in that zone. So talk about challenges. It's not the challenges in your head and your sensibilities, but it's also the challenges physically there at site, which become very, very, very different from the architecture of the new kind that we have to practice.
Absolutely. No, but yeah, I'm sure that, finding these discoveries like this has led you to basically, think of creative solutions or think of simpler solutions where it's just a story. It's a story to tell. It's a discovery to, kind of, it makes room for conversation, or it makes an interesting focal point also, for patrons to discover. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I'm going to make a audience poll live because we'd love to hear from our audience as well. Rudra or Harsh, if you can maybe make audience poll 2 live, where we're talking about, should adaptive reuse be integrated into urban development and regeneration as processes? So we have that question up, please. Yes. Yeah. So while the audience also answers this, the reason why I wanted to bring this poll up is because you talked about Ballard Estate, as it was previously oft neglected. Even Sassoon Dock, for that matter, for the longest time it was this abandoned suburb till culture kind of introduced and played a role in regenerating it and bringing it to life. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on how we can be a lot more, while yes, as a process, yes, it is tedious. As a process, yes, it requires a lot of patience, understanding of traditional architectural and building methods as well. Wanted to understand what your thoughts are on using adaptive reuse as a process of urbanizing suburbs and urbanizing places that are neglected and bringing life to spaces.
Yeah, I feel that these cities today, the modern cities, need a lot of attention. I think there's a lot of degeneration that has already happened, right? The rot has been a long time back, and we've not had a clear direction as to how to have a good balance between the public spaces in the city vis-a-vis buildings, or even if we're talking about the built architecture, there's a lot of haphazard way of going about it. We cringe all the time being in big cities and see how the cities are actually developing, how they are growing, and where they're going. There are different challenges that different cities have. I think cities like Bombay, Calcutta, Cochin, to a certain extent, have a different sort of a set of challenges where they are by the coast and they have a certain, like Bombay has a linearity to deal with. It doesn't have land on either side. Places like Bangalore and Delhi have different set of problems where they are growing in a different rate, and there is no stopping it because it is spirally growing and it can just keep going.
Yeah.
I think the urban regeneration is a constant process. There have to be, again, we can get into this discussion in a different panel, and of course we are talking about this as an architects collective, that there need to be authorities that are coming in along with the consultation, along with the intelligence of the people who are experts in the urban planning area,
Right.
where we could create enough balance of open spaces and the buildings that are being built. On the other hand, if the question is about revitalizing, repurposing the old settlements, the old areas, the old precincts, then that's a crying need, because instead of building, there's a very simple logic I have over here. Within these 2-3 kilometers of the southernmost tip of Bombay, we have plenty of pockets that could be given a completely new shape. I'm not saying that this work is not happening, but it's happening, I think, in a very slow fashion, also in a disorganized fashion, where we can organize this where the old settlements, the old areas, the old neighborhoods could bring some new purpose into the space, where the same amount of space does not have to be eaten out of the salt pans or the mangroves in the suburbs. So the balance has to come in, where you're not eating constantly into the ecosphere of the cities or the land use that there is in the cities. Instead, actually focus on what has already been built and give it a new lease of life. I think conscious people who are doing that, we are trying to align with those people to see that there's a focus towards reuse of spaces that are lying for us to do in the urban scenario. I am not really here talking only about a certain building. For example, this building that we are in the process of rehabilitating it, restoring it, and we'll be doing that. Hopefully, God willing, in the next year or two, we'll be able to do that and pull everybody together and give a new life for this 113-year-old building now that we have. But I think each one of us needs to come in and give that effort, not just the architects and urban planners, but also the consciousness of general public needs to come in here to make sure that everyone is oriented towards respecting the old.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we'd love to see what the audience has to also say. If you can make the poll live, please. Yeah, pretty much in agreement. And it's really heartening to see that. Puran, what you just told me, right, reminded me of, you might be aware that Trevor Noah, the famous global comedian, performed in Bombay recently. And he had a very interesting insight to share that, when I'm in Bombay, it looks like you're just building. It looks like you're just building, what are you building so much of? I think that what you shared right now really resonated with what Trevor Noah had to talk about. We're just building, but are we really thinking about why we're building and what we're building for? So, and yes, public participation makes sense. But where do you see public participation, and where do you see authority or collective action with guided by authority, aid a process like adaptive reuse?
I think dialogue on a public level, on a community level, is very important. Awareness and spreading the awareness through dialogue and through interaction, through an exchange, is the key to any society for its growth in the right direction. We are seeing a lot of change in the last few years. We would not deny that. Let's not just be pessimistic and cynicist about this. Cynical about this. I think it's very important to realize that there's a lot of consciousness already coming into the society now, but more of that would be required for us to rebuild what we have possibly not cared for, possibly not looked at and neglected for decades. We've been a free nation for, say, 75 years, but I think a lot of rebuilding is yet to be done, and that everybody needs to come in together to do that. So the next time that there is a project or there is a public space that is being proposed, and there is a dialogue about it, or there's a seminar about it, or there's a exhibition about it, I think just the public engagement and awareness and talking to as many people as possible about it is good enough as a start, Sneha.
No, I couldn't agree more with you, Puran. I think, yes, with public participation, and I think with an integration of culture too. Like for instance, the Sassoon Dock is a good story as well. And I can see someone here from the Calcutta Heritage Committee, for instance. So you have, public associations like the Calcutta Heritage Committee or the World Monuments Fund, really actively talking about, the importance of these structures. So in our last session, we had Kirtita Unwala, who's a heritage conservation architect, who also voiced these concerns, about, yes, while in Kirtita's case, her process goes on for years because conservation is a different ball game altogether.
Yeah.
It's a more intricate process, and there is so much that goes into. And there they have no choice but to work hand in hand with the government.
Right.
But yes, I think cultural integration is something that might not just rally the support of people, but also get them to contribute and get them to consciously think about how they can conserve and preserve their own spaces.
I think every sector is important here. The authorities
Yeah.
important in understanding. They need to be made to understand. They need so we have to keep knocking at their doors. The authorities don't really work at your pace, and we are in the process of doing that. Let's just say for the estate, and we're talking about the estate having got international recognition now, which we are harping on. The fact that people do realize, the design community across the world would realize that spaces like these could do. They could do good for the city for a city like Bombay, for people working in commercial districts. So why is it that we can't take certain effort, put some resources in, create awareness, and make that happen through authorities, through public support? So the next time that the estate is being presented publicly, we of course go on, whether it's on social media platforms, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn, which suggest that we are showing the estate in this public exhibition, or we're talking about it, let's just say in the next Kala Ghoda festival or the Mumbai Design Festival next year. We're already thinking about that, and we're already talking about that to the authorities. So it'd be a good idea for people to come forward and support these projects. Or there are projects being done in Bandra as we speak, or in Vikhroli, for example. So these are the projects that do need public support. I think that's good enough for people to have an engagement. There are experts who can propose, design, and have the means to get it done. But I think we need an overall acceptance and peddling of it, peddling in our minds as well as verbally. So that's very.
Because it's also disheartening to hear when you see in the news about the Parliament building, the old Parliament building in New Delhi, is going to be demolished soon, or the National Museum, which is such an iconic structure, especially for local residents, right? So do you think apart from awareness, we did talk about awareness and we did talk about integration and actively involving the public. But what about education? Do you think education can also play a role here? And do you think a process like adaptive reuse deserves a little more than maybe just a mention? Do we talk about it enough in architecture and design schools? Maybe our participants here can also share their experience, but I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Since you also work with a young team, I would love to know your thoughts here.
Well, I'd like to know from the people who are in schools, but for whatever I know, and we do have interaction in schools, we have, well, again, bringing it back to actually seeing the spaces. Please come over to the loft. There are stories here being held a couple of times a year, of course. They are open days. People can walk in, they can register and walk in anytime that they like. We invite schools, Sneha, and are constantly here at the loft through the year at these events, and even otherwise they come over for a workshop here or there. And we talk to them. I have to say that we don't find the level of information or engagement with the concept of respecting old heritage and architecture in the schools or in colleges today. But I don't see that as something to scoff at or to ridicule. I see that as an opportunity for me to engage in a similar exercise. We do that all the time as a studio. We invite them in our studios or at our projects, say the Mango House in Alibag, which is just a quick ride away from Bombay, where we have them not only talk about the sustainability in architecture through what is built anew, but also talk about how they could look at what's around them already built and value add to it. Maybe make sure that it's made good and it's used and it is given life for the next few years. So that awareness has to come through dialogue. I think education can definitely play a part over here, which it has not. I think in a very focused way, it hasn't so far. But the more people like you and Mrinalini are talking about this, and Godrej is talking about it, and StudioPKA is talking about it, and Amrish is talking about it, or Kamal Malik is talking about it, or Sumit is talking about it, the more awareness that there is in every city about this kind of work, the more there is hope that you will have work like this being done. You would have more people oriented towards respecting old architecture, and there will be a balance between what needs to be built and what needs to be revived.
Right, absolutely. I think we have quite a few questions also coming in about process. So we have Dinesh asking, what is the process behind building an exposed brick wall as natural as 100-year-old brick wall? But I don't think you've worked on building walls from scratch in either of those two projects. So it's more about repurposing, right?
We've exposed the glorious brickwork that was done 11 decades back, and that's what it is. We've not really built that. We've just given it a nice texture by way of life. Instead of it being hidden away, its glory being hidden away, for more than I think 60, 70 years, I would see that those various layers of plasters are there on that, and very carefully we've chipped that away and just given it new lease.
Right, great. The Srishti was, does the process of concept ideation vary among different projects as the main theme or aim is similar? Does the process of concept ideation among different projects differ, or is it since the main theme or aim is similar?
No, it's not. It's not the same. You have to place yourself, orient yourself to the project that you're working on, and the kind of building that you're working on. No two projects of an adaptive reuse kind in old buildings is the same. No two projects. I got my confirmation, and I am a student of architecture myself. I got my confirmation from this very, very well-established firm in London that was doing a similar work, and in fact was proposing for a project along with the Loft at the World Architecture Festival, and they won. They won over us, and I'm very happy that they won over us, because the quality of detail, the amount of detail, and the attention that went into that project, and the glory of the old building in London that was put together. It's called the Department Store. You should visit that project if you guys can. I got my confirmation talking to architects who worked on that building to let me know that you have to immerse yourself completely into that particular building that you're working on, or the project that you are actually going to build. And no amount of detailing, no amount of design sensibility or the conceptualization is the same. You as an architectural firm, you as an architect may have certain commonalities in terms of your sensibilities towards how you approach things, but that doesn't change the fact that the demands of every project are different, and the challenges likewise.
Yeah, I think that makes sense completely, Puran, given that different older buildings come with different challenges too, whether it's structural, whether it's maintenance, or whether it's also finding a different purpose to that structure as well, and therein lies
the textures, materials, fenestrations, the structural elements.
The arches are above or below.
Everything varies. Everything is different, and there's discovery all the way down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just lastly, Puran, we have a mixed bag of participants who are very keen and have shared really lovely words for your presentation and for what you have to share with us today. We're really grateful. What advice would you give? And yes, Mukul has said, usually it's the plumbing and the electricals that also cause problems. What advice would you give to architects out there who have this challenge of taking a building and bringing it to life? Like what kind of words of wisdom would you like to offer them?
You want me to go steel and mortar? You want me to go all romance? So
maybe both.
I think it's important to have knowledge. I think somebody did mention about the services. It's important to have knowledge of services and structure. And if we as architects can't have everything, because we should not believe that we know everything. You need experts in every field to come along with you. It's teamwork. Then we should have people who know structure well. We should have people who know services well, both of the plumbing kind or the electrical and the rest. But it's very important to know how services were integrated in the buildings then and how we're trying to see that we can use them in the modern context. But along with the knowledge, I think very important, it's the same as music, Sneha, it's same as creating symphony. You may have the notes, you may have the knowledge, you may have, you may know how to read and write the music in form of its notes, but you need the emotion, right? You need the feeling, you need the passion. And if you didn't have that behind what you're doing, then it'll just look like a functional exercise and you will not really see what you want to see as the eventual impact on architecture as a modern space. To me, the honesty, the heart that goes behind working into something like this is a lot of belief. You're believing in the fact that you're reviving. You may not be building, and hence you're not the parent, or you're not the creator of that building. Somebody created that building, but you are nurturing that building. You're giving it a lot of love. You are giving it a lot of heart and effort and reviving it. And I think if you believe in that, as an architect, as a creator, as somebody who's creatively oriented towards giving that shape, the new shape to a space, that feeling is very important along with the knowledge that we have. Yeah. So I would say whoever is looking at doing an exercise like this, if you guys can have a right blend of your knowledge and your passion towards working like this, that may sail us through. It's tough, but the sense of achievement on the other side is something else, Neha. It's really quite something else.
I think we can see that for sure. I think with all of the projects that you showcased, whether it was Kamal's, whether it was Soumitra's, or even yours, right? I think the operative word that I have taken away today is the fact that you're able to nurture. Yes, knowledge matters. Yes, understanding of what is possible and what isn't is imperative. But the fact that you're passionate about it, and B, that you're doing this with the purpose of nurturing, I think that goes a long way. And with community support, with a collaborative effort, that just amplifies to another level. So that's really lovely for you to share, Puran. And on that note, we are a little over time, but thank you so much. This has been really insightful, an incredible learning experience for someone like me too, who is definitely going home thinking about how she can contribute better to cities that she loves, spaces that she loves, how she can make it bring a lot more nurturing perspective to the spaces that she inhabits. So thank you so much for sharing that, Puran.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Godrej and you guys, Mrinalini, Sneha. Thank you very much for everyone who has had the time to listen to us. I'm hoping that we managed to have a dialogue going. So thanks.
Absolutely. And we would love to hear feedback from everyone. So we will be sharing a feedback form very shortly. If you would love to know more about Puran's work, you can follow StudioPKA on Instagram. They have a lovely website too. A lot of you asked whether you can come and visit. You can definitely get in touch with Puran directly. And I'm sure he'll be, like he said, he hosts workshops with everyone, especially students too. So please feel free to reach out to him. And yes, lots of lovely comments coming to you as well, Puran.
Thank you.
We will share that with you directly.
Sure.
But thank you everyone for your time. And I hope you are able to take whatever you can and maybe share it with your students, with your colleagues, and maybe collectively contribute towards the process of adaptive reuse. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Puran,
Thank you
for a lovely evening, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.